A very happy morning, my dear students. Welcome to English online class. In this class, we are going to revise chapter 1 Oliver Finds a Home and poem My Puppy Plays Piano. Lesson 1 Oliver Finds a Home. This lesson, Oliver Finds a Home, is an extract from the novel Oliver Twist. Oliver, an orphan, runs away from an orphanage where he is ill treated and lands in a den of thieves. The thieves take Oliver to rob a house but are stopped by the servants. They run away, leaving wounded Oliver behind. The servants take him into the house, and the ladies of the house, Mrs. Marley and Rose, were astonished to see Oliver because they did not expect the thief to be a little boy. And Oliver told the ladies that the thieves wanted him to do all kind of wrong things. They wanted him to rob their house and had left him wounded there. The two ladies were moved upon hearing the story of Oliver's unhappy life. So they decided to protect Oliver. When the police arrived, the servants did not mention that Oliver was with the thieves. Instead, they said that Oliver had wounded himself earlier while playing. Thereafter, Oliver lived happily with Mrs. Marley and Rose. They took wonderful care of him. They fed Oliver well and sent him to an old gentleman who taught him to read and to write. And every night, Oliver would sleep peacefully in a clean bed in his own room. In this novel, Oliver Twist, author Charles Dickens beautifies the character of Oliver. In spite of many hardships and bad situations Oliver had to face in his life, yet he remained innocent and he refused to do any kind of wrong things in his life. This attitude of Oliver changed his life from a miserable one to a happier one. And this is how children Oliver found perfect happiness in his life. Next, let's move on to the poem My Puppy Plays Piano, written by Ken Nesbitt. This poem is all about pets learning music, playing duets, forming their own band, and becoming famous. This poem talks about the poet's puppy who learned to play piano by watching the poet, and he also learned to play classicals, blues, and rocks. And he even went to the extent of teaching the other pets how to play duets, and he taught them to play guitar and drums. And finally, all the pets formed a band and practiced hard, and they traveled all over the world. And very soon they become famous for their catchy pet rock music. And the poet concludes that the pets become millionaires because they wrote this song. Now students, we are going to revise the classwork notes as well as the exercises given in your book. As per your question pattern, section A will be taken from the poem. You will be asked comprehension type of questions from the poetry. Any stanzas from the poem can be given as comprehension question. He started out on chopsticks, then he learned to play some back. It wasn't long before he knew the blues and classic rock. Name the poem from which these lines are taken. These lines are taken from the poem My Puppy Plays Piano. Name the poet who wrote this poem. Ken Nesbitt wrote this poem My Puppy Plays Piano. Whom does he refers to in the poem? The word he refers to the puppy. What is meant by chopsticks? Chopsticks is the pair of thin sticks used for eating food. What kind of music did the puppy learn to play? The puppy learned to play classical, blues and rock. What happened after the pets formed a band and practiced hard? After the pets formed a band and practiced hard, they traveled all over the world and very soon became famous for their catchy music. Students will move on to section B. Questions from the prose will be asked in this section. Answer the following questions. Why were Mrs. Marley and Rose astonished to see Oliver? And the answer is, Mrs. Marley and Rose were astonished to see Oliver because they did not expect the thief to be a little boy. So, children, why were Mrs. Marley and Rose astonished to see Oliver? Because they did not expect the thief to be a little boy. Second question, what did Oliver tell the ladies about himself? And the answer is Oliver told the ladies that the thieves wanted him to do all kind of wrong things. They wanted him to rob their house and had left him wounded there. I'll repeat you the answer. Oliver told the ladies that the thieves wanted him to do all kinds of wrong things. They wanted him to rob their house and had left him wounded there. Students will move on to the third question. How did the ladies feel upon hearing Oliver's story? So how did the ladies feel on hearing Oliver's story is the two ladies were moved upon hearing the story of Oliver's unhappy life. They decided to protect Oliver. The two ladies were moved upon hearing the story of Oliver's unhappy life. They decided to protect Oliver. Question number 4. How did the servants help in protecting Oliver when the police came for inquiry? And the answer is when the police arrived, the servants did not mention that Oliver was with the thieves. Instead, they said that Oliver had wounded himself earlier while playing. Okay, children, we'll move on to the last question. Do you agree that Oliver found perfect happiness with Mrs. Marley and Rose? Give reasons. And the answer is yes, Oliver found perfect happiness with Mrs. Marley and Rose. They took wonderful care of Oliver. They fed Oliver well and they sent him to an old gentleman who taught him to read and write. And every night Oliver would sleep peacefully in a clean bed in his own room. This is how Oliver found perfect happiness with Mrs. Marley and Rose. Children will move on to the next section, section C, vocabulary. Write the synonyms of the following words. Okay, since for this monthly test you have only one lesson, so you can be thorough of the 5 synonyms in this lesson so that you can score good marks in your exam. What is meant by innocent? Innocent, blameless. Second, intelligent. Intelligent means clever. Third, strength. Strength means might. Fourth, risk. Risk means danger. Fifth, rage. Rage means anger. So let me ask you a few questions from the synonyms. Innocent. Very good, children. Innocent means blameless. Strength. Yes, strength means might. Rage. Yes, children, rage means anger. Next, let's move on to contraction. Complete the contractions of the words. So first we'll revise what is contraction. Contractions are shortened words. Certain words can be shortened and an apostrophe is used in place of the dropped letter or letters. And these shortened words are called as contraction. So did and not. So the contraction of did and not is didn't. So when we write the words together, we delete O in not and we put an apostrophe. So that's how we write didn't. Second one, does not. So we write it as doesn't. So here also we delete the O and we use apostrophe in place of the drop letter. And the same happens in has not. The contraction of has not is hasn't. And the contraction of have not is haven't. And contraction of is not is isn't. Next, let's see a few contractions with will. So what you have to do is write the words together and delete wi in will and put an apostrophe in place of that. So I will. So you have to delete wi and you can write I apostrophe ll. So the contraction of I will is I'll. Next, You will. So you have to delete wi in will and you can write the two words together, u apostrophe ll. Eighth one, they will. So again you have to delete wi in will and you can write the two words together. In place of wi you have to insert an apostrophe. So they apostrophe ll, they'll. And the last one is contractions with have. So what you have to do here is write the words together and delete HA in have and put an apostrophe instead of that. The examples are ninth one. I plus I and have will give you I apostrophe VE. So you have to delete HA in have and instead of that you have to insert an apostrophe. And the 10th question is they have. So in they have you have to delete HA in have and instead of that you have to insert an apostrophe. So they apostrophe VE. Next, we'll move on to the next Roman letter. Choose the suitable words to make meaningful phrase. So you have to choose the words from the bracket to form phrases. First one, answer. Answer the door. Water the plants. Sharpen the pencil. Light a fire. Park the car. Post the letter. Take a test. Bake a cake. Children, options will be given for you, so you have to just choose the words from the bracket to form the phrases. So children, we have revised section A, questions from poem, and section B, questions from prose, section C, vocabulary, and section D will be on grammar. So first read the sentence and circle the correct options within the brackets. Students, you have to read the sentence and identify the kind of sentence and circle the correct option within the brackets. So first let's revise what is a sentence. You know that sentence is a group of words that makes complete sense, and a sentence must always have a verb. And there are four types of sentences. The first one is a sentence that tells us something. Okay, what is that? It is called a statement. And a sentence that asks something is called a question. And a sentence that gives a command or a request is called as an imperative sentence. And a sentence that expresses a sudden or a strong feeling is an exclamatory sentence. So now we'll do this exercise. Don't run down the stairs. So which type of sentence is this? Yes, children, it is an imperative sentence because it gives a command. What a brave girl she is. Yes, it is an exclamatory sentence because it expresses a strong feeling. Where will the 2018 FIFA World Cup be held? Yes, children, you're right. It is a question. Oliver went to an old gentleman to learn to read and write. Yes, it is a statement. The 2020 Summer Olympics will be held in Tokyo. Okay, it's also a statement. We'll move on to the next exercise. Write S for sentence and P for phrase. So children, you have to identify whether it is a sentence or a phrase, and you already know what is a sentence. A sentence is a group of words that makes a complete sense, which means it gives a complete meaning, whereas a phrase is also a group of words but it doesn't give a complete meaning. And a sentence always starts with a capital letter and it ends with a punctuation mark, whereas a phrase doesn't start with a capital letter or end with a punctuation mark. So let's see the first question. Learned by watching. Learned by watching is a phrase. Second, they could play duets. They could play duets. It gives a complete sense, so it is a sentence. My other pets. It is a phrase. Guitar and drums. Phrase. They formed a band. It is a sentence. Traveled all around. It doesn't give any complete meaning. We don't know who traveled and where did they travel. So it is a phrase. Lots of music. Again, it is a phrase. They wrote this song. So this sentence is a complete sentence. It has a subject as well as it has a predicate. So it is a complete it gives a complete meaning. So we call this as sentence. My pets were millionaires. So again, it is a sentence. Last one, carefully written. Carefully written is a phrase. So next we'll move on to the last exercise. Use the possessive form of the underlined nouns and rewrite the phrases. So you have to use the possessive form of the underlined noun. First one, voice of the singer. So when we write in possessive form, we usually add apostrophe s. So we write as singer's voice. Second one, the purse of the lady. So when we write the answer, it is the lady's purse. And last two, the salaries of the workers. So when we write as workers' salary. So after the S, we insert an apostrophe because workers is a plural noun. So after S, we write the apostrophe. And the last exercise is interjection. So what is interjection? Interjections are words that express sadness, fear, joy or any sudden feeling. And we usually use a exclamation mark after an interjection. So you have to know the meaning of common interjections like oh, alas. So students, we have revised the entire portion for your monthly exam. So without wasting much time, you can go through your book exercises, grammar, poem and your prose. Children, you are expected to write your test neatly in your test notebook. All the very best, children. Remember, you must do your best. Thank you, children. Have a nice day.